Welcome in for another episode of the Silver and Blue Podcast. I'm your host, Nate Sanchez. Joining me is my co-host, Corey Douglas. Corey, it's been, I want to say it's been about a little over a week. We were able to record a preview for the Eagles game and then just family stuff, holidays. We haven't been able to connect over the last week, and certainly a lot's happened. There's a lot to talk about as we gear up for the Cowboys Week 18 matchup against the Commanders.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a lot that's, took place, including two Cowboys wins, which has kept their division hope, somewhat alive, depending on, how pessimistic you want to be, I guess, looking at things. But yeah, I mean, heading into this last game against Washington, there's still a lot to play for. And, there's the question out there that I'm sure we'll probably get into. Would you rather play Green Bay at home or Tampa Bay on the road? Because it seems like right now those are probably the two likely scenarios. But yeah, there's a lot to look forward to as we, wind down this regular season and push towards the playoffs.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess before we get into all the Cowboys stuff, we do need to start with just a brief discussion about the Damar Hamlin situation. If you haven't seen it, I'm sure you have. But the scary Damar Hamlin situation with the Buffalo Bills, where he took a hit to the chest. I forget the exact medical term of what they called it, but basically something messed up with his heart rhythm, and he collapsed on the field. They had to do CPR and bring I want to say a defibrillator out on the field.
Hmm.
They were able to save his life on the field. There's been some positive updates today that I just saw about. Apparently, he was able to open his eyes. He's made significant improvements, which is awesome to hear. Because, quite frankly, on Monday night going into Tuesday, you didn't know, and it was a very scary sight to see. And honestly, obviously Damar is the priority, but it was really hard to watch how the Bills players reacted. But hats off to Zach Taylor and Sean McDermott for how they handled that situation, uh, because it seems like the leadership of both teams there handled that situation about as well as they possibly could, and they prioritized Damar Hamlin, which is obviously that's the utmost priority. Like, football goes out the window. Like, we love the game, we love football, but that was a matter of life and death. And really scary situation, but thankfully there's been some positive news recently. And I'm sure when Damar comes back too, and he like fully wakes back up, he's going to be thrilled to see what took place with his toy drive charity that people dug up on GoFundMe. And I remember when I first saw it on Twitter, the goal was $2,500 on the GoFundMe, and I remember when I first looked at it, it was at about $12,000, and then by the end of the night, it was well over a million. I think now it's sitting at around $3 or $4 million. So, just that's definitely a positive that's come out of it, and on top of the fact that we've since gotten some positive news about Damar.
Yeah, I mean, my initial reaction as I'm sitting there watching the game is like, oh my gosh, we've never seen, anything, really close to that and that type of, you would think a routine play, that happens, countless amount of times, on any given Sunday, any given game that takes place. So for that to transpire, I mean, it was definitely devastating. And the whole, like, and credit to ESPN for like their coverage on it
Yes.
as well, because Joe Buck, Troy Aikman, Lisa Salters, and the whole crew that was working that Monday night game, I thought they did a phenomenal job, and they were really put in a really tough place to kind of have to cover a story like that, for something so tragic on the field. And then the various reports that were coming out, how they're gonna just warm up and continue in five minutes, and then the team captains coming together on both Buffalo and Cincinnati and just saying, we're kind of Cincinnati leaders, like, we're going to do what you want to do. And none of them had interest in playing that game. So I'm glad that decision was made, however it got there, because there's no way a football game should have continued there. So I'm glad it did not. Definitely great news with, the positive updates that we've gotten today. Just shout out to the whole medical team. I thought the fans, the coaching staff, like they were there in attendance. I thought they did a phenomenal job just handling the situation with grace. And now, we're just all rooting for him to, make a recovery and, get back to, whatever a normal life is going to look like for him. But yeah, just definitely just a scary time. And, and also the guy on the other side of that play, T. Higgins, definitely want to send my prayers out to him as well. because he's dealing with a lot, and there's clowns on TV blaming him for the play and saying it's his fault, which is completely ridiculous. So just major shout out to Hamlin and his family and his loved ones, and the whole Buffalo community, and friends, family, just whoever knows him. I know the Cowboys have a running back that was speaking, kind of glowing of him, being a teammate at Pitt, I believe it was. So yeah, it sounds like a great human. I've been watching some of the videos that he's posted on social media throughout the years, and he just seems like just a genuine dude. So yeah, just speedy recovery for him, and hopefully he can get back to life as he kind of knew it before that play.
Yeah, definitely. It's just been great to hear good news about him, and keep praying for Damar Hamlin. He's going to pull through, and it'll be all right. And he's gonna be overjoyed when he sees what took place with his toy drive. So, and then shout out to Real Football 18 as they just posted a comment. Keep up the great work, fellas. Love the live format and agree with your point of views regarding Hamlin. Thank you for tuning in, Real Football 18. I wish I knew your actual name, but appreciate you, man. But yeah, so it's a weird week in the NFL, just with what happened, and obviously football is not the priority right now around the league. Everyone's worried about Damar Hamlin, but it seems like we're still going to get some football this week. So the Cowboys do have a game to get ready for, as hard of a week as it's been. Mike McCarthy spoke some on that, just in terms of I believe they had the team chaplain speak to the team about it. Dak had some comments about it. It's just a tough week around the NFL, and it's going to be interesting to see how players prepare and get ready for their games this week, because there is, frankly, and not to minimize what happened on Monday, but like there's still football to be played, and like they have to move on at some point, and these players have to get ready for a game. I wondered if maybe they wouldn't play week 18 games, which maybe that would have been a smart decision, just to take the week off and go into the playoffs as is, but it doesn't seem like that's the plan. So the Cowboys have to go to Washington on Sunday and play a game, and there's a lot on the line. You mentioned the scenarios, Corey, with so I'll lay it out really quick. With the Dallas win, an Eagles loss, and a San Francisco loss, Dallas is the 1 seed. With the Dallas win, an Eagles loss, and a San Francisco win, Dallas is the 2 seed. And if Dallas loses, or if Philly wins, then Dallas is the 5 seed. So that's just kind of where we're at with the playoff scenarios. Philadelphia is a massive favorite against the Giants, and I believe the Niners are a massive favorite against the Cardinals. So I would probably plan on being the 5 seed. I'm not counting on the Giants or the Cardinals with Trace McSorley taking down
Mm-mm.
the Niners. I believe both those teams are double-digit underdogs. So Cowboys are probably going to be the 5 seed. They're probably going to play the Buccaneers. But it sounds like they're still going to play their starters and be ready to go on Sunday. It's so, like we said earlier, it's been a little bit since we talked, Corey. Cowboys are getting banged up. They have the Tyler Biadasz injury. I guess where are you at generally with this team after these last couple of weeks? Because obviously the Eagles win was awesome. Still have massive concerns about the secondary, but the offense appears to be playing really well. They hung 40 on a damn good Eagles defense. And then the Titans game was just kind of sloppy, and that Titans game just seemed like they were clearly the better team, and they're like, we're just trying to get out of this game healthy and get out of here with a win, which they did, and they won by 2 touchdowns. I didn't really learn a whole lot about them after the Tennessee game, truthfully.
Yeah, I think when you look at the Philly game, I think coming off the emotional high that game brought, with the exciting, close game, exciting finish where, Philly's driving down the field. The Cowboys do get the stop to win the game, and then turning around on a short week, and having to play a Tennessee team who's well coached, even though they were, resting a whole lot of players. I just think that Tennessee game was I just chalk it up to that. Like you said, I didn't learn anything positive or negative in that football game. Then you were without Tony Pollard in that game, so that makes a huge difference on the offense. But going back to the Philly game, and I just want to just talk overview about the play of Dak Prescott, and how he's seemingly It seems like there's maybe one or two plays that a game where you're like, all right, what are you doing, Dak? But then the rest of the game is flawless. I'm still hoping that gets cleaned up, this week against Washington, and then most likely against Tampa Bay on the road in the playoff game. But overall, I mean, you can't be upset with the way Dak has played. You look at the way T.Y. Hilton's played at the receiver position has been huge, and I think they're getting exactly what they were expecting when they signed him, showing that he still has tread left in the tire. You talk about that 3rd and 30 play where
Yeah.
Dak just heaves it up to him down the field. I mean, that was a game saving play pretty much. I mean, 3rd and 30, you're not thinking you're going to complete that. Most situations, you're just going to check the ball down, get into a more favorable punt situation, and go on about your business. But at that stage of the game, and for T.Y. Hilton to make that type of play, it was huge. Then he comes back against Tennessee and gets 3 or 4 or 5 catches, whatever the number ended up being. So I'm really excited as his role should expand in the offense. Maybe he takes more of those Noah Brown snaps, and maybe even carves into some of Michael Gallup's snaps, because I still don't think he's up to
Yeah.
Michael Gallup standards at this point. And then when you turn around on the defense, uh, I have questions. And I think if you look at that matchup against Tampa Bay, which is the most likely scenario, when you talk about Chris Godwin and Mike Evans, and having to hold up against those guys, where it looks like Brady and that Mike Evans connection kind of got connected on Sunday against Carolina. That is something that I'm very concerned about. We know Tom Brady's going to get the ball out fast, and the pass rush hasn't really been getting home as much over the last 3 or 4 weeks either. So all of those things are just kind of concerns, or just things or thoughts that have been going through with this team, through the last couple of weeks since we last talked.
Yeah, I was really I was kind of bummed we weren't able to do like a full episode reviewing the Philly game like we normally do, because the game was Christmas Eve, and then on Christmas, we aren't going to record a pod on Christmas, and then the 26th, I was traveling all day. It just didn't work out. But
Hmm.
real quick, I don't think it's hyperbole to say that was the best game of Dak Prescott's career. Even with the pick six at the beginning, I mean, he was unbelievable the rest of the way after that pick six. Um,
Absolutely.
and so, for all the, discussion about his interceptions, I want to say, so he has 14. Um, per PFF, I think 7 of the 14 were not on turnover worthy plays. Where, if you don't know, PFF has this metric where they grade turnover, like, is it a turnover worthy play? Did the quarterback mess up? Where it's basically it hit the in the hands and it got picked off, like the Noah Brown one or the Peyton Hendershot one against the Titans. And it's just that some of these have just been really unlucky. So, like, yes, at a certain point, the turnovers do need to be cleaned up. But even amid these weird turnovers with Dak, he's playing arguably the best football of his career. If you look at the EPA per play, success rate, CPOE metrics, all these metrics, he's graded out tremendously. And he's been one of the best quarterbacks in the league since he's come back. And, if you think otherwise, it's just because you're biased against him, or you don't like the numbers, or the numbers don't agree with your priors. I don't know, but he's playing at a tremendously high level, and the numbers back it up. And the people that actually watch film on NFL Twitter, that have opinions that are actually valid, versus guy sitting on his couch that doesn't pass his eye test. All these things add up to be like, hey, look, Dak Prescott's playing at a very high level, and look, if this team gets bounced, if and when they get bounced in the playoffs, I really don't think it's going to be because of Dak. I think they have much bigger issues on the defensive side of the ball. They really just need this defense to figure it out in the secondary. Thankfully, Deron Bland has shored up one of those missing cornerback spots. Nashawn Wright is still a big problem at that third corner spot. But going forward, Dallas just needs its pass rush to step up, and that's going to be something that they're going to have to lean on. And they've been able to get pressures recently, but the sacks just haven't been there like they were in the first, I don't know, 60,
3
70.
quarters of the season. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, the sack numbers have fallen off. I saw somewhere I want to say it was like weeks 1 through like 10, they had like 40 something sacks. And then over the last like I want to say 5 or 6 weeks, they've only had like, I want to say 4 or 5 sacks. I don't have the numbers off the top of my head,
Gosh.
but point is, a lot of sacks
Yeah.
in the first part of the season, and it's dried up a lot recently.
And you can just look at the total sack numbers as far as, like, where they rank, like, they were number 1 by, I wanna say, like, I felt like it was, like, 6 or 7 sacks, and now they're, like,
Comfortable
in
margin,
4th.
comfortable. Yeah,
Yeah, and they're, like, 4th now, so, like, Philadelphia's overtaking them, and then, like, 2 other teams,
yeah.
so, I mean, that right there just tells you that, like, this team has not been getting sacks, at this high of a rate.
Yeah, it's just I think part of it, the pass rush has been able to get pressure, not as much pressure, but I think part of it is teams are starting to get the ball out quicker. They've recognized the secondary is a bit of a weakness now, with obviously Anthony Brown and Jordan Lewis out. And again, you and I have discussed this before, and I think I said this on the last pod. Um, some of y'all owe Anthony Brown a big ol' apology because he is not as bad as everyone thought he was, but yeah, it's just I think I guess yeah. Let's talk about this. Going into the playoffs and going into this, I guess this Washington game and then onward, and be it the Tampa Bay game, we're assuming, and then hopefully they're able to move on past that. What are your biggest concerns with this team right now? Because I think my biggest is the secondary and the offensive line. We just discussed the secondary a bit. With the offensive line, where I'm concerned is this Tyler Biotish injury. So he suffered a high ankle sprain, if you didn't know, against Tennessee, and they got some good news where they think he's going to be back for the playoffs. But man, things are starting to get really thin on the offensive line if Biotish isn't able to go because Tyrant Smith has been okay at right tackle. You still have Zach Martin at guard. But when Biotish went out in the Tennessee game, they shifted McGovern over to center, Tyler Smith into left guard, and Jason Peters into left tackle. And after that, your depth is more or less shot. Your depth is down to Josh Ball and Matt Farniok and whoever else. Whoever
Practice
else
squad
it
guy.
is not going to be playable in a playoff game. And I think you can survive with that five, but do you really think Jason Peters is going to be able to hold up and stay healthy through a playoff run? I don't think so. I really think Jason Peters needs to be your swing tackle, and play in select spots for you. Um, so it's just it's definitely a big concern right now up front for Dallas.
Yeah, I think when you ask the question, what's my biggest concern right now? I really think it's just the injuries are just mounting up,
Yeah.
and it's leading to concerns on the defense. I'm concerned about the pass rush, and the pass rush. It's not necessarily like the pressure that is has me concerned. It's the way teams are attacking the defense, where they're getting the ball out quick. So I don't really see a fix for that. And then the way Michael Parsons has been battling through his injuries all season long. His effectiveness, concerns me. Getting to, for instance, Tom Brady. I mean, like the Washington game this weekend. I mean, that's probably going to be a win. I mean, they're starting, I believe, Sam Howell, I think is his
Yeah.
name, this week. So, I mean, Washington's punting on the season. They're eliminated. The Cowboys are probably going to go in there and be able to take care of business. And then, I'm hoping they can get starters out by the second half once they kind of see what's going on around, with San Francisco scores and Philadelphia scores. But then, yeah, just the injuries mounting up on both sides of the ball at this point, and then just the ability. I have concerns about not necessarily concerns about Kellen Moore, but what type of game is he going to dial up? Against Tampa Bay, against a defense you've already been shut down against this season. Although it was really early in the season, completely different teams. I understand that, but I have concerns about the type of game plan that Kellen Moore is going to run out there in a playoff game.
Yeah, I do too. And one thing that's been really concerning for me over the last couple weeks is how poor the early down running has been for Dallas. And I'm not sure how much to read into the game plan against Tennessee, just because it kind of felt like they're like, all right, let's get in. We're gonna come in with a vanilla game plan. Let's get the win and let's get out of here because. And it was an issue against Philly for a decent bit of the game, and then it kind of carried over into the Titans game was how just the ineffective early down running. And unfortunately, this offense has been just predicated on early down run, inefficient, and then it's all right. It's 3rd and 5, 3rd and 6, 3rd and 9. Hey Dak, bail us out. And where would they be without Dak bailing them out on 3rd and long? Like and I have a group chat with like all the Cowboys fans in my family, and one thing my uncle always says is he's like, it just feels like we're always perpetually in third down. And I'm like, well, it feels like that because we are, because of the early down runs are, you're not going to convert many first and second downs with a run up the middle. And, I don't have an issue with, running it short every time, like, or throwing it every time, just because, you got to mix it up sometimes, but they're near the bottom of the league in terms of early down run percentage.
I think
And
they're dead
that's not where
last.
yeah, yeah, and that's not where you wanna be, and on top of, running it on early downs a lot, they're not good at it. I remember I saw a tweet after the Titans game. I think they had 19 early down. I think they ran the ball 19 times on early downs for a total of 39 yards. So it's like that's just something with Kellen Moore that I'm worried about. And again, we've discussed this before where I don't really think this is a Kellen Moore thing. I think this is sort of a front office saying this is how we want to win type thing. And we've seen this narrative before, and it's seems to be holding true again. I just hope this doesn't become a massive issue come playoff time.
Yeah, because if you remember, there's a Stephen Jones quote out there that our friend Connor Draft always brings up, where Stephen Jones was, I guess, on one of his local radio hits saying that their plan is to get into third and short situations, where it's like the play calling kind of backs that up, and like you said, it's probably not all Kellen. It's definitely coming, down to front office mandate saying, we're going to run the football. We got Zeke and Pollard. We're going to just run them. And that's ineffective because they can't do it. The offensive line is not really good at blocking on the runs. And I think the defense have kind of picked up on that tendency. So it just makes it a whole lot harder for you to run the ball.
Yep.
And then also, just to your point earlier, where you were saying, in that Eagles game, they kind of stuck with that, and it actually had Greg Olson up in the booth. I felt like he was going to jump out of the booth and just say, "Hey, why are we continuing to run the ball on first and second downs? Dak is cooking right now, and I don't understand why they're even running the ball." And it eventually, I guess, comes around, but it's still like all throughout the game, specifically in that one, when your quarterback is on a heater like that, you have to keep riding it,
Yeah.
and until they find a way to stop it. But yeah, I think it's you and I's opinion. Greg Olson was in the booth, like I said, frustrated with the play calling, and once we get into a huge playoff game, that could be something that ends up getting you sent home.
Yeah, and the margins for error are so slim in the NFL playoffs. I mean, it's truly a do or die situation. I'm not really going on a limb saying that, but Um, the margins for error are just so slim in the NFL playoffs. You can't get away with much. And as good as the Cowboys offense has been, as much as Dak has been able to turn this into one of better offenses in the league, there are some flaws, and there is some stuff that could hurt them in the playoffs. Be it the inefficient early down running, be it the poor pass protection, and honestly, the run blocking has been kind of poor ever since Terrence Steele went out, which is something we talked about where we were like, man, the
He
run
goes
block.
down, they're in trouble.
Yeah, and Terrence Steele was by far their best run blocker. So it's just the offensive line is trending in the wrong direction. It just feels like Dak is kind of keeping this thing afloat. Um, but I will say this: the addition of T.Y. Hilton has been um, I don't revelation's a bit of a strong word, but Ty has helped this team immensely just in terms of having another
Absolutely.
capable receiver option. He's eating into those Noah Brown reps. He's opening things up a little bit. Like he had 4 catches for 50 yards against Tennessee. I mean, that's all you can ask for, man. That's all you can ask for out of your wide receiver 3. And that's something they've missed all year long. So, maybe T.Y. Hilton keeps, helping unlock this offense, um, but yeah, we'll have to see. But yeah, I think those are probably our 3 concerns. We said the secondary, the offensive line, and then you brought up the play calling, which I agree has been really frustrating lately with all the early down running. And real quick, someone just commented, we got some good news. Hamlin,
Hamlin's awake.
which
Great.
I hadn't seen that news, but if true, that's terrific news. So again, more prayers for Damar Hamlin. So real quick before we get out of here, Corey, let's just discuss the game on Sunday against the Commanders. I guess just what are you looking for on Sunday in this matchup? I know we normally do a big long preview of each game, but we had so much to catch up on, and this game it's kind of a weird game. So just briefly, what are you looking for on Sunday in this game against the Commanders?
For number one, I just want to see the offense continue to play as well as as they have been. As far as Dak Prescott playing well, CD Lamb has been really good. And I want to see them get out of the game healthy. I
Yes,
don't want any
that was
more
going to be mine.
injuries. Yeah, no more injuries. I think we've had our fair share, and I think we're good. And then I don't think you're going to really learn anything about the defense in this particular game because if they even play well, it's going to be, you could probably chalk most of it up to, I'm starting a first year or first time starter in the NFL type of situation. But I will think, well, I take that back. The one thing I will learn is Brian Robinson's a very physical runner, and they are probably going to run him a lot. So I want to see how the defense holds up against him, I
Mm.
guess I can say. But other than that, I mean, I don't think we're going to learn a whole bunch more. Just get out of the game healthy and get prepared for, you know, Tampa Bay most likely.
Yeah, that was gonna be mine just in terms of health. Get the hell out of there healthy. That's priority number one because let's face it, don't kill yourselves, banging your head into a brick wall trying to win this game, trying to improve your seating when in all likelihood Philly's probably not losing and San Francisco's probably not losing. And I'm sure someone with the Cowboys, someone on the staff is going to be keeping an eye on the Philly score. Maybe the San Francisco score too, but the one that really matters is the Philadelphia score. I'm sure if Philadelphia goes up 3 touchdowns and they're in the second half, you say, all right, hey,
Get Dak out of there.
get Dak out of there. Like, let's get CD out of there. I'm sure someone will be keeping an eye on that. And on top of the health thing, FedEx Field is known for just being
Disaster.
excuse my French, a shithole in terms of injuries and just
Yep.
a terrible field. Like I hate the fact that this game is at FedEx Field. I hate it. So biggest thing, get out of there healthy. But the two specific position groups I guess I'm going to be looking at is well, you mentioned the defensive line just in terms of Washington's physical run game. I'm probably looking at the linebackers and how they play because reinforcements are coming. Dallas has reinforcements coming for the playoffs. It sounds like Leighton Vander Esch is going to be back for playoff time. It sounds like Jonathan Hankins is going to be back for playoff time, and that's quietly been a big injury for Dallas. They've been hurt in the running game ever since him and Vander Esch have both gone out. And so, I'm definitely looking at them and how Damone Clark, Anthony Barr, and Jabril Cox are able to play, as this is probably their last real work before the playoffs. And then offensively, I'm not too worried about Dak and the passing game at the moment. I'm going to be watching the offensive line closely. Obviously, again, number one, get the hell out of there healthy. But without Tyler Biotish, I'm interested to see the different offensive line combinations they run out there. And this is a bear of an offensive or a defensive line to deal with. Washington has a stable of awesome defensive linemen who are going to
Hmm.
be out there. And
Hmm.
it's a big test for that Dallas offensive front that has, frankly, a lot of injury questions that I'm concerned about. So, without Tyler Biotish, it's going to, I'm assuming maybe McGovern at center and, where they go from there, because again, they have Deron Payne, they have Jonathan Allen, they have guys like that just can give you fits. It's a big test for the offensive line. And again, I've said it multiple times is I'm very concerned about how they hold up because Biotish has quietly just been a little bit of a glue guy for the offensive line. And
He's improved this year for sure.
yeah, absolutely. And the thing is that like football people will tell you is that the average viewer isn't going to realize there's so much to the center position in terms of having chemistry with your quarterback on getting the protection right, getting that set. Biotish has been there for 17 weeks, so that's a big adjustment for Dallas and something they're going to need to be prepared for, and especially they're going to need to be prepared for if Biotish can't go against Tampa Bay in the wild card round. Again, I'm
Hmm.
assuming it's Tampa Bay unless something crazy happens on Sunday. So, even when Biotish comes back, hey, you're fresh off a high ankle sprain. Here's Vita Vea at nose tackle. So,
Yeah,
um,
and that whole blitz scheme that, Todd Bowles runs
yeah,
over there. So, yeah, it's gonna be, quite a challenge.
yeah, it's going to be a challenge for sure. So, I guess brief predictions. I think Dallas is going to win on Sunday just because I don't know how the Washington offense is going to be able to do much. Dallas does tend to struggle with random quarterbacks that we've seen.
That can run a little bit
We've
and
seen Josh Dobbs and Gardner Minshew put together some things, which is really frustrating. They always seem to struggle with quarterbacks that like there isn't much film on them. It's just if there's ever a random quarterback, it's like, all right, like
300
what are we
yards
doing
and
here? But
3 touchdowns, here you go. It's like
yeah,
it's
yeah.
crazy.
So I'm sure Sam Howell will have 250 and 3 touchdowns. But in all seriousness, I think they'll come away with a win, and I think the offense will be able to do enough. And I just think Sam Howell, I'm not super concerned with Sam Howell. So I think they get a win, and then we just intently keep an eye on that Philadelphia New York score. And apparently the Giants are playing their starters. I don't know how or why they are because they're locked in at the 6th seed. So
Yeah, I saw Dayball, say that after the game last Sunday, and then he kinda backed off of that in a later quote that I saw later in the week, like maybe Tuesday or Wednesday. It's probably Wednesday, where, he basically said they're gonna be smart, so I wouldn't expect to see much of Daniel Jones, Saquon Barkley, and some of their other important guys. I'll believe that when I see it.
yeah, so that's just kind of where we're at. Cowboys will probably be the 5 seed, and Corey, if I had to go out on a limb and guess, I would guess that around this time on Monday or Tuesday, we're going to be previewing Cowboys in Tampa Bay. So unless you got anything
Yep.
else, let's get on out of here. Thank you guys for listening. Make sure to check out everything going on at the Dallas Sports Fanatic. Check us out on Twitter at Cowboys News 365 and at Dallas_Fanatic. You can get me at Nate_Sanch77. You can get Corey on Twitter at the Mr. Douglas with 2 S's. We'll talk to you guys next time on the Silver and Blue podcast when we preview the Cowboys' first round matchup against, I guess, probably
Whoever.
Tampa Bay. Probably let's
Yeah.
play Tampa Bay. Thank you guys for listening. We'll talk to you next time.